Fellas, in today's video I'll be covering Thor, the God of Thunder in the simplified Marvel Rivals guide. Thor is one of the best off tanks in Marvel Rivals. While he doesn't play the best as the only tank, they are an excellent choice as a secondary tank. His role shines with disruption, mitigation, and action as a damaging tank who will disrupt the enemy team, causing havoc and knocking them back, making it tough for them to advance forward. Underneath Thor's crosshair there is 3 hammer charges. Most of his abilities use these, so you'll need to manage them, and they do take a few seconds to recharge. And in this guide I'll be covering his combos, playstyle, and more, so whether you're new to Thor or need a seasonal refresher, this video will be for you. Now Thor's basic attack is Mjolnir Bash, where he swings his hammer in a series of 4 hits. The range is decent with 4 meters, hitting 45 damage per hit, with each hit happening about every half a second or so. It's not fast, but it is decent. And as it is melee, it will go through most shields. Thor's second attack is Hammer Throw. He throws his hammer, and this hits for 70 damage on the first impact and 30 damage on return. The initial throw is a little bit slower than the return, but the return cannot be blocked, which is very interesting. On his E ability, this is Lightning Realm. This creates a 5-meter radius that when enemies enter the area, they take 40 damage, and it restores a Thor Force Hammer, which is very important. And the enemy is slowed by 30%. Does have a 12-second cooldown, so it's best to be used early in a fight, but not as an opener. Placing it in the chokeholds or on objectives will be for best use, as that will basically fully restore your hammers. So what is a great opener is Storm Surge. You hold your left shift, and this will charge up the hammer, letting Thor dash from 10 to 20 meters depending on how long you charge it. And then if you do hit an enemy like you see there, it will take him either 6 meters if it's uncharged or 13 meters if it is charged. Now it does have a 2-second charge up, which changes the damage from 40 to 60 damage depending on how long you charge it for. And this is great for mobility and getting around. Same thing with snagging an enemy and taking them back to your team for elimination. It can be a little bit tricky to land, but it does offer amazing rewards. And then most importantly is Awakening Rune. Using all 3 of your Thor Force hammers, this will change your state, which gives you bonus health, damages enemies over time, and makes your basic attack stronger. The basic attack will now do 70 damage, but it is a projectile, meaning it can be shielded. And that area of effect on Thor does 30 damage to the enemies nearby per second. The total time it lasts is 5 seconds, and the bonus health lasts 2.5 seconds. This is probably the best ability with Thor, making him tough, strong, and a real force to deal with. You just have to manage your resources to get it off proper. And then for your passives, you have Thor Force, that is the name of the hammers. Every time you consume a hammer, you get 100 bonus health, up to 200 in total. So if you use the Awakening Rune, this will consume all 3 hammers, but you only get 200 health, not 300. And then with Hela as a team up, her getting a kill will either revive Thor and Loki, or give them 50 bonus health, depending on if you're alive or not. And then with Storm and Captain America, this will give them a bonus move, while they all get bonus health. Although I do believe that is seasonal. And then lastly, we have his ultimate, God of Thunder. Thor launches up, and if you do it under a bridge or some sort of terrain, it'll still have the same outcome, but Thor will slam down and do an area of effect. The total duration is 1.5 seconds, making the damage impact of 220, and leaves the spell field for about half a second, doing 40 damage. This will kill most squishies. The cool thing to note is with this impact, it hits 20 meters up into the air, which can surprise some of the flyers, but the secondary area of effect only hits the ground. Now a key note as well is Thor gets reduced movement during this ultimate, so how can you remedy this? Throw your hammer dash to get yourself into the enemy team and then use it. Then as a suggested combo, says to throw his hammer mid to long range, and then use your hammer throw to get yourself behind the enemy. Use Lightning Realm as well as the Awakening Rune to deal tons of damage, but that's not the only combo I'll cover. So let's get into some gameplay to see all this in action. As mentioned, Thor is a great off tank, but isn't a great single tank. He's very susceptible to crowd control effects and does not have much in the way of actual shielding. In other words, he can't be the center of attention like other tanks and stand on all the damage. Positioning will be important to learn and master with Thor. Use terrain to block attacks and positioning to singular targets. This will be the best way to disrupt the enemy, take them out of proper position, and general poke damage with the hammer throw. When Thor has the Awakening rune active, there's two paths you can follow. You can apply heavy pressure to the enemy front lines, dealing a ton of damage that can be hard to keep up with healing. This is effective if they only have one tank. The other option, and likely will be the better option to do, is shoot your attacks at the supports and backline. This will deal heavy damage to those with lower health and take their attention away from the front lines, which may be the key to turn a fight. Thor, once learned well, can be great with closing gaps and pushing the enemy team back, and pressuring the other tanks. He is not resilient like Hulk, but does offer more in damage and utility. If played right, he can handle being without supports for brief periods, but definitely don't stray away from them. And if you're missing a melee duelist on the team, that's a position that Thor can fill in as well as a Vanguard, engaging and disengaging. You don't want to be leading a charge all on your own. Stick with your team, this will be the best way to do it. And then on game modes where you're on the defensive side, stick close to the other front lines and tanks for shielding while you deal damage. This will make a really strong force. If there is a pushback, Thor can also lead the charge, pushing the payload, using Thor dash to get in and lead the attack, as well as to get out to get healed. On the other hand, for offensive, push the front lines to focus on Thor and allow your front lines to flank and hit supports. Be sure to keep an eye on your surroundings to know when to get out, when to recover, and what to use as shields. In general, I think this makes Thor very tough to learn and use early on. You can't play him the same way every single game. He really needs to be flexible. Having to adjust your playstyle based on your team composition, that makes him more tricky to use than other more simpler one-style tanks. So for example, if you have Venom on your team, it'll be Thor's job to protect the backlines and create space. On the other hand, if you have someone like Doctor Strange on your team, then it'll be Thor's job to claim space, target the enemy backlines so they focus on you over healing the front line. In the way of combos, it's very tricky with Thor because his playstyle does depend so greatly on the composition of the team, as well as what game mode that you're playing. As a good general, you can use your hammer swing to get yourself into the enemy team, cause havoc, and then get back out. And you can also use that rune to bring back your Thor force, so that you can use the Thor Awakening to deal massive damage. But overall, in the end, it's going to be throwing your hammer for poke damage, using your hammer charge to get around quickly, and just your basic attack of swing the hammer until someone dies. Oh, and one important thing, when you're using his ultimate, don't focus on the tanks with that. It's really not going to do too much damage unless they're already low health. The best thing to do will be to use that on the supports and DPS, as that'll be something that can knock him out pretty much with one hit. And that is a wrap on the simplified Thor Marvel Rivals guide. Tell me, did I miss anything, or do you have any tips of your own that you think other people should know? Leave it in the comments below. And hey, hit that like button if you're still watching. Subscribe for more videos like this if you haven't already. Stay tuned for the next one.